The air was thick with smoke and the cries of the desperate. Eliyahu, a young scribe of the tribe of Levi, clutched a scroll to his chest as he watched the Assyrian soldiers drag his people away in chains. The kingdom of Israel was falling, and with it, the 10 tribes of the north were being swallowed by the shadows of exile. Eliyahu's heart ached as he saw families torn apart, their homes reduced to ashes. He whispered a prayer, but the words fell hollow against the weight of despair. Eliyahu, a voice called out. It was his mentor, an old priest named Malachi, his face pale and streaked with soot. You must leave now. Take the sacred texts and go. The Assyrians will not stop until they've erased us from history. Eliyahu hesitated. But what about the others? The tribes, they're being scattered to the winds. How will we ever find them again? Malachi placed a trembling hand on Eliyahu's shoulder. The tribes are not lost, my son. They are hidden. Their journey is not just one of flesh and blood, but of spirit. Remember this. The divine spark within them cannot be extinguished. Go and seek the truth beyond what your eyes can see. Before Eliyahu could respond, a group of soldiers stormed into the temple. Malachi pushed him toward a hidden passage. Run, Eliyahu. The future of our people depends on you. Eliyahu fled into the night, the scrolls tucked safely under his arm. He ran until his legs gave out, collapsing in a secluded grove outside the city. As he lay there, gasping for breath, a strange calm washed over him. The stars above seemed to pulse with a rhythm, as if calling to him. And then he saw it. A vision. An ancient figure appeared before him, cloaked in light. His eyes were like flames, and his voice echoed like thunder. Eliyahu, son of Levi, you have been chosen to witness the great mystery. The tribes you seek are not merely scattered across the earth. They are fragments of a greater whole, pieces of a divine puzzle. Their exile is not the end, but the beginning of a journey that will span ages. Eliyahu's heart raced. Who are you? What do you mean? The figure smiled faintly. I am Metatron, the scribe of heaven. The tribes you mourn are not lost. They are seeds, planted in the soil of time, waiting to bloom. Your task is to find them, not with your eyes, but with your soul. For their true home is not of this world, but within the heart of the divine. The vision faded, leaving Eliyahu alone in the darkness. His mind reeled with questions. What did it all mean? How could he find tribes that had vanished into the unknown? And yet, deep within him, a spark ignited. He felt a strange sense of purpose, as if the universe itself had chosen him for this quest. The next morning, Eliyahu set out on his journey. He didn't know where he was going, but he carried with him the words of Malachi and the vision of Metatron. Somewhere out there, the lost tribes were waiting, and he would find them, not just for the sake of Israel, but for the sake of all humanity. Years had passed since Eliyahu fled the fallen kingdom of Israel. His once youthful face was now lined with the marks of a life spent wandering. He had traveled far, across deserts, through forests, and over mountains, following faint whispers of the tribe's whereabouts. Each clue led him deeper into the unknown, but the vision of Metatron burned brightly in his mind, urging him onward. His first stop was Egypt, a land of ancient mysteries. There, he met Miriam, a healer with piercing green eyes and a voice that carried the weight of generations. She was of the tribe of Dan, though she spoke of it only in hushed tones. We are the keepers of the old ways, she told Eliyahu as they sat by the Nile under a crescent moon. But our identity is a secret, hidden even from ourselves. The world is not ready to know who we truly are. Miriam spoke of her ancestors, who had fled to Egypt centuries ago, blending into the culture while preserving fragments of their traditions. She showed Eliyahu a small amulet, engraved with symbols that matched those in his sacred scrolls. This is all that remains of who we were, she said, but it is enough. The spark of the divine still burns within us. Eliyahu left Egypt with a renewed sense of hope. Miriam's words echoed in his mind. the spark of the divine still burns within us. He wondered if the other tribes carried that same spark, hidden beneath layers of time and assimilation. His journey took him next to the distant lands of the East. In a bustling market in India, he met Yakov, a merchant with a quick wit and a deep knowledge of the stars. Yakov was of the tribe of Asher, though he had long since adopted the customs of his new home. "We are like the rivers," Yakov said, gesturing to the Ganges flowing nearby. "We adapt, we flow, but our essence remains the same." Yakov showed Eliyahu an ancient manuscript written in a script that bore striking similarities to Hebrew. "This is the wisdom of my ancestors," Yakov explained. "They brought it here, to the ends of the earth, so that it might survive. But over time, even we forgot where it came from." Eliyahu felt a pang of sadness. The tribes were not just scattered, they were fading, their identities dissolving like salt in water. Yet, Yaakov's resilience gave him hope. Perhaps, Eliyahu thought, the tribes are not meant to be found in the physical world, but in the echoes they leave behind. From India, Eliyahu's path led him to the rugged highlands of Ethiopia. There, he encountered a community known as the Beta Israel, who claimed descent from the tribe of Dan. Their leader, a wise woman named Tova, welcomed Eliyahu with open arms. "We have waited for you," she said, her eyes gleaming with recognition. "You are the seeker, the one who will bridge the past and the future." Tova spoke of a prophecy. One day, the tribes would be reunited, not in body, but in spirit. "We are like the stars," she said, separated by vast distances, yet part of the same constellation. "Our unity is not of this world, but of the soul." Eliyahu's heart swelled with emotion. In each place he visited, he found fragments of the tribes, not as he had imagined them, but as they truly were, resilient, adaptable, and deeply connected to the divine. Yet the question remained, how could he bring them together? How could he fulfill the prophecy of their reunion? As he left Ethiopia, Eliyahu felt the weight of his task more than ever. The tribes were not lost, they were everywhere, hidden in plain sight. But their true reunion would require more than a physical journey. It would require a transformation of the soul. Eliyahu's travels brought him to the edge of the known world, a vast desert where the sands seemed to stretch endlessly under a blazing sun. He had heard rumors of a hidden temple, a place where the ancient mysteries of the divine were preserved. It was said that only those who were truly seeking would find it. Exhausted but determined, Eliyahu pressed on, guided by an inner compass he could not explain. After days of wandering, he stumbled upon a structure carved into the side of a mountain. Its entrance was marked by symbols that matched those in his scrolls. As he stepped inside, the air grew cool, and the faint scent of incense filled his nostrils. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of creation, exile, and redemption. A voice echoed through the chamber, soft yet commanding. "Welcome, seeker. You have come far." Eliyahu turned to see a woman cloaked in flowing robes, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. She introduced herself as Sophia, a keeper of the Gnostic mysteries. "You seek the lost tribes," she said, her voice like a melody. "But do you understand what they truly represent?" Eliyahu hesitated. "I know they are scattered, their identities hidden, but I believe they carry a piece of the divine within them." Sophia smiled. "You are closer to the truth than you realize. The tribes are not merely a people. They are an archetype, a reflection of the human soul's journey. Each tribe represents an aspect of the divine spark within you and all of humanity." She led him deeper into the temple, where the carvings on the walls seemed to come alive. "The tribe of Judah," she began, pointing to an image of a lion, represents the quest for inner kingship, the mastery of self. "The tribe of Levi," she gestured to a figure holding a flame, embodies the connection to the sacred, the bridge between heaven and earth. Eliyahu's mind raced as Sophia continued, explaining how each tribe symbolized a step on the path to enlightenment. "The exile of the tribes," she said, "is not a punishment, but a necessary descent. Just as the soul falls into the material world, forgetting its divine origin, so, too, have the tribes been scattered. Their return is not a physical reunion, but a spiritual awakening. Eliyahu felt a surge of clarity. So, the tribes are not lost. They are within us. Their journey is our journey. Sophia nodded. Exactly. The tribes are fragments of the divine consciousness, scattered across time and space. Their exile mirrors the soul's fall into the material world, and their return symbolizes the soul's ascent back to unity with the divine. As they spoke, the temple seemed to shift around them, the walls dissolving into a starry expanse. Eliyahu saw visions of the tribes, not as they were in the physical world, but as luminous beings of light, each radiating a unique energy. He saw Miriam in Egypt, her hands glowing as she healed the sick. He saw Yaakov in India, his laughter echoing like a prayer. He saw Tova in Ethiopia, her voice weaving the threads of prophecy. The tribes are alive, Sophia said, her voice echoing in the void. Not as a people, but as a force, a collective memory of the divine. Your task is not to find them in the world, but to awaken them within yourself and others. Eliyahu felt a profound sense of peace. For the first time, he understood the true nature of his quest. It was not about reuniting the tribes in the physical sense, but about rekindling the divine spark within humanity. The tribes were not lost. They were waiting, hidden in the hearts of those who sought the light. As the vision faded, Eliyahu found himself back in the temple, Sophia standing before him. Remember, she said, the journey of the tribes is the journey of the soul. Their return is not an event in time, but a transformation of consciousness. Eliyahu bowed his head in gratitude. Thank you, he said. You have shown me the way. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder. The path is yours to walk, Eliyahu. Go forth and awaken the tribes within. Eliyahu's journey had taken him across continents and through centuries, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. As he left the hidden temple, a strange energy enveloped him. The air shimmered, and the ground beneath his feet seemed to dissolve. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the desert. He stood in a world unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering structures of glass and lights stretched into the sky, and people moved about in garments that seemed to shimmer like liquid. Above, the stars were obscured by a faint glow, as if the heavens themselves had been harnessed. Eliyahu realized with a start that he had been transported to the future. A woman approached him, her eyes sharp and curious. She wore a sleek uniform adorned with symbols that reminded him of the temple carvings. "You're not from here," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "I'm Ariel, an archaeologist." "Who are you?" Eliyahu struggled to find words. "I am the seeker. I don't know how I came to be here." Ariel studied him intently. "You're from the past, aren't you? I've read about people like you, travelers who appear out of nowhere, carrying ancient knowledge. Come with me. There's something you need to see." She led him to a vast underground archive, filled with artifacts from every era of human history. Among them, Eliyahu recognized objects from his own time, scrolls, amulets, and even the staff he had carried for years. "These are relics of the lost tribes," Ariel explained. "We've been piecing together their story for generations." Eliyahu's heart raced. "What have you learned?" Ariel gestured to a holographic display, which projected images of the tribes across the globe. "The tribes were never truly lost," she said. "They were scattered, yes, but their influence is everywhere. They brought knowledge to every corner of the world, medicine, astronomy, philosophy. But over time, their origins were forgotten." She paused, her expression darkening. "There's more. We've discovered evidence that the tribes were guided, not by chance, but by something or someone. Something beyond our understanding." Eliyahu's mind flashed back to his vision of Metatron. "What do you mean?" Before Ariel could answer, the room was filled with a blinding light. A figure materialized before them, his form shifting like a mirage. It was Enoch, the traveler of time. "Eliyahu," he said, his voice resonating with power. "You have come far, But your journey is not yet complete. Ariel gasped. Who? Or what are you? Enoch turned to her, his gaze piercing. I am a messenger, a bridge between worlds. The tribes you study were not merely a people. They were a project, a divine experiment to prepare humanity for its ultimate destiny. Eliyahu stepped forward. What destiny? Enoch's form shimmered, and the room dissolved into a vision of the cosmos. Stars and galaxies swirled around them, and Eliyahu felt as though he were standing at the center of creation. The tribes were seeds, Enoch explained, planted in the soil of time. Their scattering was not an accident, but a necessity. Through their journey, they carried the divine spark to every corner of the earth, ensuring that no matter how far humanity fell, the light would never be extinguished. Ariel's eyes widened. Are you saying the tribes were guided by beings from another dimension? Enoch nodded. Yes. Just as a gardener tends to his crops, so too have we watched over humanity. The tribes were the first step in a plan that spans millennia. Their return is not a physical reunion, but a spiritual awakening, a moment when humanity remembers its divine origin and takes its place among the stars. Eliyahu felt a surge of awe. And what is our role in this? Enoch's gaze softened. You are the bridge, Eliyahu, the one who connects the past to the future. Your journey has prepared you to carry this message to the world. The time of awakening is near, and the tribes, both within and without, must rise. The vision faded, and Eliyahu found himself back in the archive with Ariel. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and wonder. Is it true? She asked. Are we part of something greater? Eliyahu placed a hand on her shoulder. Yes, the tribes are not lost. They are within us, waiting to be awakened. And it is our task to help them rise. Ariel nodded, her resolve hardening. Then let's get to work. Eliyahu stood at the edge of a vast, shimmering lake, its surface reflecting the stars above. Ariel was by his side, her eyes wide with anticipation. They had traveled far, through time, across continents, and into the depths of their own souls. Now, they stood at the threshold of the final revelation. The air was thick with energy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Enoch's words echoed in Eliyahu's mind. The tribes are not lost. They are within you, waiting to be awakened. He turned to Ariel, who clutched a small device that projected holograms of the ancient artifacts they had collected. This is it, she said softly. The moment we've been preparing for. But how do we awaken the tribes? How do we bring them back? Eliyahu smiled. We don't bring them back, Ariel. We remember them. We remember who we are. He closed his eyes and reached deep within himself, calling on the wisdom he had gathered over a lifetime of searching. He thought of Miriam in Egypt, her hands glowing with healing light. He thought of Yaakov in India, his laughter echoing like a prayer. He thought of Tova in Ethiopia, her voice weaving the threads of prophecy. And he thought of Sophia, the Gnostic mystic, who had shown him that the tribes were not a people, but a force, a collective memory of the divine. As he focused, the air around him began to hum. The lake's surface rippled, and the stars above seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Ariel gasped as the holograms from her device came to life, forming a constellation of light that hovered above the water. Each point of light represented a tribe, a fragment of the divine spark scattered across time and space. Eliyahu raised his hands, and the lights began to merge, forming a single, radiant sphere. This is the unity we've been seeking, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Not a physical reunion, but a spiritual awakening. The tribes are not out there. They are here, within us. They always have been. Ariel stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. Then, this is it. This is the return of the tribes. Eliyahu nodded. Yes, but it's not the end. It's the beginning. The awakening of the tribes is the awakening of humanity. It's the moment we remember our divine origin and take our place among the stars. As the sphere of light grew brighter, Eliyahu felt a profound sense of peace. He saw visions of people all over the world, ordinary men and women, beginning to awaken. They were farmers in fields, scientists in labs, artists in studios. Each one carried a spark of the divine, a piece of the tribe's legacy. And as they awakened, they began to shine, their light joining the great tapestry of creation. Enoch appeared once more, his form shimmering like a mirage. "You have done well, Eliyahu," he said. "The tribes are no longer lost. They are found, not in the physical world, but in the hearts of those who carry their light. The journey is complete, but the work is just beginning." Eliyahu turned to Ariel, who was now glowing with the same light as the sphere. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Eliyahu said, "we live. We remember, and we help others awaken." The sphere of light exploded into 1,000 points of radiance, scattering across the sky like stars. Eliyahu and Ariel watched in awe as the light spread, illuminating the world below. For the first time in centuries, the tribes were united, not as a people, but as a force of divine consciousness. As the light faded, Eliyahu felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His journey was over, but the awakening had just begun. He looked at Ariel, who smiled through her tears. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me the way." Eliyahu nodded. "The way was always there, Ariel. We just had to remember.